So where was I? So it's Hemisphere. I believe the year is 1989. Spring 1989, around February, March. We had the big mariachi conference slash tournament, and the Highlands High School Tecolotes, Highland High School Owls, because that was our mascot. Got second all state, and I made my connection to two people that would eventually have a huge impact on the rest of my life. We did the gig, we got the placement, everybody's feeling like hunky-dory, happy, and all kinds of shit. And I become friends with Pedro Apolinar and Alfred John Robles. And we would start laying the foundations of our friendship, and eventually become the band John Hex's Creepshow. And we were high school friends, hung out all the time. A year later, because Fred was in the class ahead of me, one class ahead of me. Pedro was in, I think, my graduating class. Fred would, I think, graduate high school in 91. I think me and Pedro in 92. And I was doing mariachi stuff. I was doing mariachi stuff for like 3 or 4, I think around 5 years before I got blacklisted, which is a really long story that I don't care to get into right now. I did at one point after graduation, I think about a year after, I tried to put together a mariachi group, and that failed miserably. I was the one who founded the group, so I take complete blame for its failure. It was basically, I think it was a lack of leadership on my part. I didn't know what I was doing. And after my experiences working for the mariachi program with the SAISD, it did not pan out the way that I had wanted it to. We played a few gigs, maybe 2 or 3 at the most, I think. But none of the people in the group, and we were about a handful, I want to say we were 5 persons. And I can't remember the names or the faces anymore. So maybe it wasn't that important to me, but it was a failure. I can tell you that right now. It was a complete and utter failure. And I learned that I didn't want to be in that position anymore. If I was going to be part of anything, I was going to be part of something where I didn't have to lead and didn't have to dictate, and as a consequence not have the responsibility of leadership. So it's about probably, I graduated it in 1992. I kept the music thing going until at least 93 or 94. And that's about the time that I quit music. I was very disillusioned about everything that was going on. My blacklisting had a profound effect on what I was doing and what I wanted to do. I couldn't play music anymore. At least I felt like when I was doing mariachi, I was fulfilling something that other people wanted me to do. And it wasn't where my heart was anymore. So I made a decision to just stop playing music. I didn't want to do anything with it anymore. I started taking jobs with a placement agency, and I started working for Hardcourt Brace Jovanovic. And they would do all those placement testing and things like that. I was in their warehouse, basically just sorting books out. You know, we would receive all these test booklets that students had completed and had to figure out where they needed to go to be graded. I did that for, oh God, almost a year. It was tedious and mind-numbing work. But I did it for a minute because my buddy Fred was doing it. And we were still friends and still conversing and hanging out and doing all that other stuff you do right out of high school. Because we didn't really have anywhere or anything or anybody that needed us, wanted us, or had any real obligation to anybody, really. And it was, I think, maybe a couple of years doing that kind of stuff. Just living, trying to make a little bit of money, a little scratch here and there. I took probably half a dozen different jobs within a 3 or 4 year period until around probably 1996 is when I had kind of lost touch with Pedro. And one day I went to Macrelis Mall just hanging out, waiting for my next bus to come. And I see him at the mall just hanging out, not doing much of nothing. And we get back together and I say, "Hey, what are you doing, brother?" "Yeah, just here, just trying to, you know, just hang out, whatever." So, we see a movie at the Dollar Movie there at Macrelis, and he brings me home. So that's when we reconnect. Probably 95. I want to say this is about 1995. And we're just talking about bullshit and what we were aspiring to do right after high school. And he's like, "You know, maybe we should put a band together." And I'm like, "Really?" I said, "You know, I'm still talking to Fred. He's talking about the same shit." And it just was like, all right, well, let's all just kind of like hook up and talk about shit and figure out what we want to do. It takes a minute, but we eventually convene at an apartment I'm staying at with my best friend at the time. His name is Ben Kirkendall. No longer with us, but one of my best friends ever. We're just hanging out, drinking, watching shitty movies and, not doing much else with our time. And we have a lot of it. We're all working real shitty jobs, and we just don't know what we're doing with ourselves. We're all in our early 20s and trying to figure shit out. And we come upon the notion that maybe we should just start a band, see where it goes. What can we do? I start school in around 1996 is when I go back to college. I took 1 year right after high school. And I did not want to be there. So after the first, I think it's 2 semesters I'm there. It's a year. I complete my classes and I say, fuck it, I'm done. I don't want to be in school anymore. That changes later, but I digress. So I make the decision to say, hey, fuck it, I'm just going to be working, blah, 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 blah. So I'm working, but I have all this free time. Same thing with Fred, same thing with Pedro. And we make the decision to start practicing together, playing music, doing nothing but covers. We do Woman from Lakes Diamond, we do Little Susie from Tesla, we do Do Ya from the version from Ace Frehley, which is actually originally from Electric Light Orchestra. We're doing all these different cover songs that we all know how to play because we were playing them back in high school. We were just hanging out and doing all this other shit. And we start playing these songs. And then Fred is like, well, I've been writing lyrics for original music because I don't necessarily want to do cover songs. All right. And I'm like, motherfucker, why didn't you say this? We need to do something different. There's a million cover bands out there. And we want to be different. We want to break out. We want to do something no one else is really doing. And I'm like, dude, I love playing cover songs. I always will play other people's music. But if you got something original, I'll play that too. And I will do whatever it is you need to get these to visualize and come together and have something tangible. And he was like, well, okay, we'll figure this shit out. And one day at one of the practices, we were playing the same fucking songs. I said, let me see what you've been writing. Fred's like, no, it's not ready. I said, dude, let me see what you're fucking writing. And he shows me his notebook, and it's full of songs or things he's been writing that they don't have any real song potential yet. So I looked through Fred's notebook. I'm looking. What can we do? What can we put together and do something original? And I come across the first song. The first song we all played together is a song called Psycho. And I'm like, all right, this looks good. I love the way the lyrics flow. And he's like, all right, well, what do you want to do? I said, follow me. And I start playing my bass part. and it just comes out. Simple. Dun 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 dun. You can find the video on YouTube. I came up with the bass part, and I'm like, try singing around that. And he does. And the song just fucking comes together quicker than I expected it to. I suspect quicker than he expected it to. So, that's the protoform, the genesis of what would eventually become John Hex's Creepshow. And that was a life-changing moment when I think about it, because it eventually opened up other avenues of expression. And I was living in a shitty little apartment off of South Cross Road with my best friend at the time, Ben Kirkendall. We did our first practices there. All the rehearsals, everything, all the songs that we started to put together started right then and right there. And that was a life-changing moment. What some would call a paradigm shift. Because then I was able to do what I went into music to do initially, was to play rock music. It was pivotal and one of probably the most important moment in my life, and pushed me in a direction that I didn't think was ever going to happen. And that is how I started off in the great rock and roll tradition. That's how the band started. That's how my life changed. And I will be forever grateful for that. Because nothing else in my life has given me more satisfaction than my work in music, especially that of rock and metal and punk. Because that's the only thing I ever really wanted to do with myself. I don't know any other words to describe that. But that's how it all began. And I don't think I would have it any other way. I hope you liked the video. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, this is how it happened. Ask the only other survivor, Pedro. One of my longest, oldest, dearest friends. Unfortunately, my boy John is no longer here with us. But that's another story for another day. Have a good one. Y'all take care. And we will see you on the flip side. Later.